Hello everyone and welcome to another really awesome game. It's from yesterday's Grand Chess Tour blitz section. It's Viswanathan Anand versus Nepomniachtchi, and this is a game from round 14. A lot of you guys have suggested it, so let's check it out. The tournament has finished and there of course are a lot of cool games to be covered, so do use hashtag suggestion and I will go over your suggestion and check out the game you've had in mind. So here Anand with the white pieces opens with e4. Sorry about that. Uh, Nepo replies with c5. He goes for the Sicilian defense. We have knight to f3, e6, and now d4. So nothing out of the ordinary here. Just captures. Knight to c6, knight to c3, and now a6. So we are in the Taimanov variation of the Sicilian. Knight captures on c6. B captures. Now black with a very strong center here. Preparing to strike with the d5, and Anand plays queen to f3 here. So, of course, if white allows it, black will do it. So here we have d5, and now queen to g3. So this is basically the only move that's played here. You hinder the development of black's dark square bishop, and your queen is very active here, controlling the b8 square. So rook to b8 can't really be played. It's something that black would really want to do. So here we have f5 now, striking in the center. Sort of a Stonehenge formation, Stonewall formation here, and we have E captures on f5. We have E captures, and now there is a game in the database where bishop to g5 was played. It's also a game that was played by Nepo. Nakamura had this position against Nepomniachtchi in this year's Magnus Carlsen Invitational in March. The game ended in a draw where Hikaru played bishop to g5, but here Anand plays bishop to f4, and it is now, as of move 10, that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Nepo continues. We have knight to f6 and bishop to e2 now, ready to castle, and now rook to a7. And it's often the case when you have, for example, the bishop here attacking this square, you can't really grab hold of the semi-open b file. You're going to play rook to a7, and now if needed in the future, you can even play something like rook to b7 to grab hold of the b file, but it's the rook is most likely coming to the only open file on the board, which is the e file. So here we have castles by Anand, and now king to f7 by Nepo. Now he wants to play h6, g5, develop the dark square bishop, and only then get the rook into the game. But the king, as you'll see, will be very safe here. So rook 8 to d1, and now h6, preparing g5. So Anand plays bishop to e5, not allowing g5 to come with an attack on the bishop here. So g5 still, and now rook f to e1. We have bishop to g7, and now bishop to f1. The bishop is very nicely tucked in here as a defensive piece. It also, just slices the board in half, attacking that a6 pawn if black ever stops defending it, and also you make room for the for this rook to control the e file. So rook to e7, now preparing to double up here with rook h to e8, and now bishop to d4, offering a trade of rooks. So rook h to e8, and now rook captures on e7. We have queen captures on e7. Now Nepo controls the e file, but now queen to d3. Anand just centralizes the queen, as he knows moves like f4 are coming. So f4 by Nepo, and now a3, and here we have a5. Now, how do you continue this game for Anand? Well, you should always strive towards improving the quality, not the quality, but maybe the activity of your pieces. So here, knight to a4. The knight is now coming to c5, and it definitely makes sense. It's going to be hard for black to prevent this, and also you're going to be nicely controlling this bishop here from c5. So here we have bishop to g4 attacking the rook, but Anand says not a problem. I even wanted to play f3 here at some point. We have bishop back to d7, and now knight to c5. And this is now a beautifully placed knight. We have bishop to c8, not allowing this tension to exist in white's favor, and queen to c3 now, putting some pressure on this bishop here if the knight ever moves, but also just attacking the a5 pawn. And here, if Nepo wanted, Nepo could maybe play queen to c7, defend the a5 pawn, and the game just continues, but it's still not maybe the greatest of positions. At some point, white will launch forward with b4, and he's gonna start creating something on the queen side. So Nepo, not interested in a passive position like this, he goes g4. And now, what do you play here? Well, now if you go after the pawn, just g captures on f3, and it's not looking all that great for white. So instead, after this after this g4 move, we have knight to d3 by Anand. Now putting pressure on the f4 pawn, and also you can play knight to e5 at any point to close off the e file. So here Nepo plays g captures on f3, we have g captures on f3, and now knight to d7, grabbing control of the e5 square, so white doesn't have this knight to e5 move, and now leaving the bishop here undefended. So as you can see, the bishop is attacked twice by the queen and by the bishop, but it doesn't matter. If the bishop captures, then rook to g8 will pin the bishop, the king is still on g1, and Nepo will be able to win back his piece. And says, okay, I don't think I have anything better. He plays bishop captures on g7, and now Nepo pins the bishop with rook to g8. The problem is there is a better move, but it's blitz, of course, so you can't always find a better move. But queen to e3 check was better, simply because it prevents king to h1, and the h1 square is a key defensive resource for Anand here in this position. Now you have to play king to g2. You can't really play king to h1 because then the f3 pawn will fall with check, and then the rook can fall, and it's just a losing position for white. So here you're going to have to play king to g2, and now rook to g8 is much stronger. However, in the game, Nepo played rook to g8 right away, and now comes king to h1. So now the king is very safe here. Rook captures on g7, winning back the piece, but now queen captures on c6. And as you can see, this position is much different from the one if the black queen had delivered to check here on the e3 square. So queen to g5. Now we reach the position from the thumbnail, if this ever, reaches the thumbnail. Nepo is now threatening queen to g1 check, but Anand just plays bishop to h3. Now the rook defends the g1 square, so there's no checkmate. The bishop covers this square, and okay, you are putting some pressure here, even though the bishop can never really capture, because then queen to g2 would be checkmate. So here we have knight to b6 now, kind of offering the knight, and here Nepo is attacking Anand's bishop on h3, and we already said that the bishop can't really move, otherwise you're getting checkmated, and it seems like it's over. It seems like Nepo really was able to break through the position here, but there is one move, and it's such an amazing move that feel free to pause the video and try to find this idea while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on not doing anything weird, even though here it's very hard to find something weird. But for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, as the move is rook to g1. That, of course, is a lie. That you can't play that. Bishop to g4. And there is something beautiful about solving the position by just moving the piece one square. And here, although it looks really weird, it's not, because after bishop captures and pawn captures, which was played in the game, you don't have queen captures now with the deadly threats, because knight to e5 check would win the queen. So Nepo can't really do this. After f captures on g4, he sidesteps with the king to g8. Now he, of course, would very much enjoy capturing this pawn, but now knight to f2. Now the pawn is defended, and there's no way for Nepo to break through. So here, rook to g6 attacks the queen, also the knight here, and now queen to e8 with check. King to h7, and now rook to e1, preparing to start delivering some deadly checks. So rook to g7, and now b3, just taking control of these squares, so the knight really can't join the game this way. So the knight has to find a different route. We have knight to d7, and now queen to e6. So what do you play here? We have knight to f6, bringing the knight to help out with the defense, but now you've given up the e5 square. So rook to e5 attacks the black queen, queen to g6, now queen to f5, offering a queen trade. And here, Nepo should really consider just capturing either on g4 or just trading queens. For example, knight captures on g4, captures, and try and play this this endgame where white is, of course, and of course rook captures on g4. We're gonna play rook captures on d5, and white will be up a pawn, but it's a rook's endgame. Perhaps it's possible to hold this, but he doesn't think so. It's a very ugly position. Maybe white can even get nice two connected pass pawns here. So instead, after this queen to f5 move, he just plays rook to c7. He says, okay, I'm going after the c2 pawn, and now if you want, you can trade queens. But now Anand says, but now there's something better. I'm just captured the pawn on f4. It's a free pawn, because if you capture on c2, then you no longer have control of the 7th rank, and then my rook joins the 7th rank, and we all know what a rook on the 7th rank is called. So here, Nepo doesn't really have a choice. Now he's down 2 pawns. He has to go for material. Rook captures on c2, but now just rook to e7 with check, and there's really not a lot of ways you can defend this. King h8, we have rook to e6 now, threatening to win the knight here. So king to g7 defending, and now just h3. Now the knight can move as the g4 pawn is nicely protected. We have queen to f7 unpinning, and now comes queen to e5, again pinning the knight here. So queen to, and not just pinning the knight, but also threatening rook to e7 to win the queen. So queen to f8, we have rook to e7 check, king to g8, now queen to e6 with check, and now there's and no more way to prolong this. We have rook to f7 now, attacking the queen and the knight, and here Nepo can resign, but he doesn't. He decides to give up the queen for this rook and knight. So queen captures, and rook captures on f2, and maybe it's still possible. He does have a passed pawn, maybe he can push it, maybe good things can still happen. But now king to g1, attacking the rook, rook to f4, and now queen to g6, just threatening queen captures, and then it's going to be check, and you're going to lose the rook. So rook back to f3, but now queen captures with check. King g8, we have queen back to g6 with check. King to f8, and now Anand played king to g2, and it was in this position on move 53 that Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned the game. And what an amazing victory for Anand in round 14 of the blitz section of the second day of the Croatian Grand Chess Tour Rapid. So here you resign because your rook is under attack, and there's really no good way to save it because, well, these 3 squares are covered by the king. This square is covered by the queen, and the only square you have left to keep defending the knight is this square. But like we said, queen to h6 will just pick up the rook if the rook is on f4 when check is delivered. So of course there's no more things to try here. It's just completely lost position. So of course Nepo resigned. So an excellent game and a brilliant tournament for Viswanathan Anand, who in the end finished in 2nd place, 2 points behind Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. I will show you the standings just so you guys get a glimpse of it. So there you have it, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave winning the tournament with 23 points, followed by Viswanathan Anand with 21 points. There was an interesting moment, I think it was in the penultimate round, or maybe one round before that, where Kasparov was facing Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, and had Kasparov defeated Maxim, he would allow Anand basically to overtake Maxim as the leader of the tournament. And Kasparov was even leading as he was he had a rook's endgame, and he was up a pawn. He had a rook and 5 pawns. Maxim had rook and 4 pawns, and then all of a sudden Kasparov gave up 1 pawn and then lost on time. So that was very unfortunate for Anand, as that was if Kasparov was able to do something there, even grab half a point from Maxim, then it would definitely help Anand maybe overtake him as the leader. But okay, in 3rd place we have Anish Giri, in 4th place Jan Nepomniachtchi tied with Jan Krzysztof Duda, and then with 19 points Shakhtar Mamedyarov, with 18 Alexander Grishuk, with 15.5 Anton Korobov, with 12.5 in 9th place Kasparov and Šarić, as they have joint points since one of them played the rapid section, one of them played the blitz section. So as you can see here, Šarić won 10 points, Kasparov only 2.5, which not all that great. And in last place we have JVF with 10.5 points. Yes, that is how we do it now. So yeah. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a very, very nice game. Thank you for suggesting it. And of course, use hashtag suggestion to suggest even more nice games. I would like to thank Robert Aratun and Jem, Al Boyd, CruzAdria.com, and Christopher Marchetti for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of basically everything that's happening in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.